Hey, everybody. Welcome to the BA Zones pre-show, brought to you live by Marianne Morrison tonight and Kathleen Sinnott in the background. Tonight, our show is it's the continuance of what we were talking about last week. We're going to be talking about teaching clients our terms, tools, and techniques. So it should be an interesting show. So if you know anybody who might be interested in the topic, feel free. Give them a shout out and let them know that we're on. And I'm bouncing back and forth a little bit this evening, but Kathleen is in the background doing all the technical stuff. She has some new fun things that we're gonna try out tonight. So can't wait for that. And one of the topics in today's show is going to be around business analyst terminology or terms, and how we convey the meaning of that terminology to the client or the customers. And so, just for fun, I'm going to throw out a term here and see if you know it, and you probably do, but whether you've actually ever used it or not. And feel free to throw us comments during the show, and we'll take a look at how you've used some of these terms. So. The question tonight is, what is a SWOT analysis, right? So I have used a SWOT analysis occasionally, haven't used a lot of it, but maybe you have. Maybe you've had some experience with it. So first of all, do you know what it is? So we'll just relay that in just a couple of seconds. The pollen count, Kathleen has told me, because she's the queen of the pollen count, is pretty high. So my voice is a little in and out tonight, so I apologize for that. But we've got some really humid, hot weather out there. Nothing like what North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia were experiencing. But that's really bad, and our thoughts and prayers go out to those folks. And I'm going to try not to use my hands tonight, because Kathleen says when I use my hands, they're like ghost hands. They're very white. So I find it difficult not to talk without my hands, but I'm going to try to keep them below deck. But if you see them out there, I'm just preparing for Halloween. That's all there is to it. So if you're just joining us, welcome aboard. We're going to go live in about 2 minutes. And again, tonight we're talking about educating the client, and often we're educating ourselves about the client's business, but we don't often get a lot of time to educate them on what we do. And of course, no one's ever going to admit that they don't know something, and sometimes they do, but most of the time they don't. So we have a few like workarounds for that that you can do to educate the client without them really having to say they need to be educated on something. It's not really education. That's, it's sort of more just a heads up type of thing. So back to the question, what is a SWOT analysis, and have you ever used it, or and in what sort of scenario have you used it? So just an answer, the SWOT analysis is a technique. It's one of our techniques, and it uses a visual model to analyze and display a company's strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that they may face, from outside the company or within the company. So that is what a SWOT analysis is a technique that we use. But how often do you use it? And in what case do you use it? Okay, so we are about to go live, and Kathleen has created a brand new start to the show, and it is 8 o'clock. So take it away, Kathleen. Ooh, very nice. That was very nice. She's been working on all our little bits in background in the technology side. So everybody, welcome again. If you're just joining us, if you're here for the pre-show, short little pre-show, only about 5 minutes. But tonight, we're going to be talking about teaching our clients terms, tools, and techniques. So if you know anyone who's interested, please feel free to forward tonight's show to them. And we want to thank you all for dropping by. So I'm Marianne Morrison. My co-host Kathleen is behind the scenes, and she's working out, all the technical equipment and all that fun stuff. So, I was just saying that you would think that clients would be familiar, or customers would be familiar with what a business analyst does and what we do on a regular basis, but really they're not. And if they are, a lot of executives might be, but a lot of times if we're dealing directly with users, they may never have had any type of, engagement with a business analyst. So, getting customers to understand what we're saying, what we're going to do for them, and how we're going to get there, and what tools and techniques we're going to use, reduces everyone's stress, right? And it improves trust, and it reduces misunderstandings and a lot of conflicts that could come up along the way. So, and as we said last week, what is really super important is to open a channel of communication and understanding. And that's what almost all of these things are geared towards, right? So if everyone is on the same page, everyone is more productive, we're all going to be more successful in the project overall. So how do we get them there? We can get them up to speed on what we do and tell them what to expect from us. And we can make this a part of our standard process. And it's really nice. You want to preface this by saying, some of the people may know some of this information, right? We don't want to come off that they don't know anything. But for those people who don't know about it, we're just going to give you some helpful, overview in our overall process. And we start with terminology. And we're doing that just as we would when we're trying to get the business's key terms and terminology, because we want to speak the same, there we go, the hands. We want to speak the same common language without our hands, obviously. So we could create a business glossary. We do it for the business, we do it for them, but we could create one that is our business analyst terms. Now, a glossary of terms, not everyone's going to just sit right down and read. And it's sort of disconnect. It's in alphabetical order. It's easy to find a term if they're looking for it. But I think a better way would be to get a little more creative, okay, and just sort of order the information. And you could do it several ways. I mean, you could actually make it a grid or a checklist where you can go through and check off items as they're completed. So it sort of becomes this combination of a glossary and an implementation tool. So if you're going to order it, you could order it from how we actually move through our process, right? So you could start with the discovery and the documentation analysis. And you could have little steps in there, and that could actually say the type of documents that if they have, that we could review. And it's right there in front of them. It could be policies and procedures, it could be guidelines, training manuals, the overall statement of work, whatever type of information that they have. So that becomes one checklist item. And it's also telling them what the discovery and documentation analysis is, a little blurb on that, and then, what type of information that we're looking for. You could go through the roles and responsibilities. And in that, you're giving them potentially, what is a RASI a RASI grid or a CRUD matrix. So, who's responsible and accountable? Who do we consult or get informed on the RASI side? And the CRUD is who has the ability to create, read, update, and delete. So you're sort of educating them on the process as well as on the terminology. And you're saying, yep, we've done this, or we're going to do this. And you could organize things like workflows and task flows and process flows and data flows. And you could put that in a section called flows, right? So like the name depicts, it is a flow. It's a movement of some type, and we're moving them through. And when they ask you, why do we need these types of things, you've got it right there in the explanation, right? So you could say things like, well, we know the order of the steps that need to be performed. We know which steps are independent or dependent on previous steps, or which steps can be done concurrently with other steps. And it fleshes out a lot of information that they wouldn't normally think about. So you could group flows into that. one type of area. And you could do the same thing for rules. And, a lot of folks don't understand what business rules are. They're at that very small atomic level that can be completed. And there's all types of rules. There's business rules. There's government or constraint type of rules or contract rules. There's validation rules. There's non-functional rules. So you can group rules sort of together. And it's sort of a little bit more logical for the customer to follow through that way instead of looking alphabetically, at a glossary of terms. Use cases, another big area. A lot of customers that I've dealt with in the past think that a use case is really what we would call a UML diagram, the little stick figures with little circles or ellipses, they call them, I think. And those are really used to sort of supplement use cases, but they really have no idea what an actual use case is and how you can literally, there's preconditions and how you step through the main positive flow and how you could have alternative flows. And it really fleshes out all of those workflows. So you see, we're sort of leading them through the process and actually providing them with something they can really understand. And again, moving down the line, you can do this with prototypes, right? So you can walk them through, the process of building a model of what they actually need or want, in order to evaluate a particular concept or clarify it. And, the wire, you can go through the wireframes, the low-tech stuff, all the way through to the mock-ups and the comps up to a full-blown working prototype. And you can show them examples of all of these things that we're talking about. So if you have a little workflow or a task flow, and you have just a little snippet of that flow, you can put it right into that little grid. And it's just a big old cheat sheet of how we work. And so that when people see things, they sort of identify with what you're trying to do. Okay. And it just makes the process so much smoother. So now what you've done effectively by creating this nice little grid of terminology, you're telling them sort of, this is the term, this is where it sort of is in amongst all the flow and options that we have. This is a little definition of what it is. Here's a little picture if a picture is required. And here's really why you want to use it. It clarifies, it adds depth to the requirements. So these are the things that'll come up that'll say, well, why do we need that? Well, this is why you need it. Here's your little column here, right next to the terminology. And it's a great handout. It's a great thing for them to refer to. So I'm just going to take a little quick look-see. And if you have any comments, please feel free to comment while we're doing the show. Are there any of these, are there any of these terms that stand out to you that you've come across that consistently clients didn't understand, and you find that you're over and over trying to explain what they are? Put it in a tool. Hand it out, and it's just a way of making that communication so much more smoother. So again, if you've got any great terms or ones that have come up, just comment and send us, and we'll talk about it on the show. Okay, so let's move on to some tools now. And I'm not talking about tools like Visio or any other or any kind of other tools that I can't think of right now, but they'll come to me. It happens. But I'm talking about creating your own tools. So you could create guides, very much like we just did for the terminology, create guides or slide decks that you can use, right? You could give them information about the project lifecycle. Many of these folks that you talk to at the user level have no understanding of, okay, we're going to do requirements, we're going to do some design, we're going to do development, and then we're going to do some user acceptance testing, before we release it. So you could explain at a very high level these are the steps and processes we go through. These are the phases we go through. So you can go from discovery to requirements. What's in the requirements? Well, we're going to talk about scope. While we're at it, we're also going to talk about scope creep so that they know ahead of time that this is going to be the cause and effect of something. So you're setting expectations here with this little tiny little document. It's so powerful. And then you can explain, elicitation, the approval and sign-off process, et cetera. Move on to design and development, and how you're going to be getting feedback from them all through the life cycle. You are going to be with them through the entire project life cycle. And that right through to training. That brings up another question, are we going to be doing training? Are you going to be creating training guides? Because sometimes we do that as well. So, take the time and create a nice just a little one-pager. This is what a project life cycle is, and this is how we're going to move through the different phases of the project. Another handy thing to have is if customers don't have a requirements template and you happen to have a requirements template, you can show them an example. This is what we're going after, and this is what you're going to be reviewing so that we're going to get your approval and sign off. And I'm going to be with you through every step of the way, but here are the high-level sections that happen in a requirements document, right? Again, what's in scope, what's out of scope, through the workflows, the wireframes, whatever you're putting in that requirements document. We tend to kind of do more of a hybrid requirements tech spec, because I think it's much clearer for users and developers and QA. So we sort of don't stick to a traditional business requirements. And again, everybody does it differently. Every company does it differently. But we sort of like to keep it a little edgier and give them a little more information so they know what's coming. Same thing with the data dictionary. People have no idea what a data dictionary is. Glossary, data dictionary, two different types of documents. And also what I would suggest is putting in a sort of a page that explains how you're going to deal with conflict resolution. So if a conflict comes up, this is how we're going to handle it together as a team. Again, we're sort of setting expectations. And what you're doing with all of these things, with the terminology and the tools, is you're creating this terrific little BA playbook, right? This is how a BA works. This is what we're doing. This is what you can expect from us. And those are just some of the tools. And I'm sure you can think of a whole bunch of them to put in. You don't want to go over the top. You don't want this thing to be like a massive document. It's just sort of a nice to have for the client. A handy little tool. And we have a handy little tool that lets us tell you where you can find us. So we'll go to that. We'll put that up. We'll take a little break here. And I'll take a little sip of water. And there you go. You can follow us obviously on our website, thebazone.com. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube. We're all over. We are everywhere. So you can definitely give us a shout out. And just one second while I choke. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. I was holding it down. Okay, moving on to, how are we going to tech? Actually, we're doing pretty good, 8:14. Okay, so we're going to talk about some techniques. Again, tons of techniques out there. You want to sort of focus on some of them that are the tried and trues. You can also have the one-offs, but the one-offs you can sort of explain as you do them. But from a one-on-one perspective, observation is always a great technique. And specifically with observations and also, elicitation and interviews, we don't often get to do that as much as we used to. People are busy. You don't always have access to users, but you want to impart on management how important those things are. Observation or shadowing someone, just watching how they perform their tasks, how they interact with their application or the process. In simple terms, as a BA, we're going to watch and record and write down what people do, how they've adapted because the system doesn't support what they want to do, and what they don't do or what they can't do, and all types of workarounds that they have. And we want to do that in order to get a deeper understanding of them as their role and their tasks, right? And another side benefit of that management needs to know is that we're building a relationship. You want to explain to them, okay, this is what you'll get out of this. We're going to build a relationship. We're going to get to know each other. We're going to start to work as a team. We're going to start to create that team so that you can get that, that push over the goal line to get everybody moving in the same direction. This is the start of that. It's fostering that level of teamwork, right? That's why it's very important. So, and you want to, just put that out there, and observation will also help them identify issues and opportunities that they may not know exist for improvement. You'll be able to observe the complexity and measure what's going on, measure performance, measure user satisfaction. You'll be able to assess their environmental factors, identify hardware or software interface needs. So these are some of the things that observation will get you, and that's how you want to explain it. Again, this is observation, this is what we do, and this is the benefits of doing that particular, using that particular technique. And another, as I said before, another, a one-on-one is the interview or elicitation. It can happen in a group as well. But typically the one-on-ones is where you want to start as well. And again, you could do it with individuals, you could do it in a select group, it could be very structured, it could be very free-flowing. You put something out there and you'd be surprised at the amount of information that will come up that management had no idea something was going on or something was being done or behaving a certain way. So, of course, the real technique with both of those is getting people to open up. And that happens by keeping the conversation flowing, keeping it very relaxed, knowing when to talk, knowing when to steer the conversation, and knowing when to play devil's advocate. So, and when they ask you why that's so important to sit there and watch someone, besides, like I said, obtaining that information, you can gauge the readiness of the interviewee to provide information so that you can work on any trust issues, or you can identify any resistance to change. People are resistant to change. You got to work on those issues to pull them along so that we all get over the same goal at the same time. So, so we've talked about those two types of techniques, but let's talk more about a couple of more collaborative techniques, where there's always usually more than two people, sometimes not more than 7 to 10 type of thing, where you're all looking at the same goal. So one of those things is brainstorming. And we've all done brainstorming. Well, I would assume you've done brainstorming. Maybe you haven't. Maybe this is new to you. So that's sort of more of an informal group technique that uses sort of these intensive discussions to solve a problem or to generate ideas. And what does that mean exactly, right? So you're going to introduce a problem or a challenge in the form of a question, and everybody's going to talk, right? Everybody can just throw out ideas. This is another huge team building exercise, brainstorming, because you encourage everybody to build off of each other's ideas, and you can get some really fantastic creative solutions and ideas by doing this, right? And that's what you want to impart on the folks that you're giving this information to, this type of technique that you want to do, right? You're looking for that creative spontaneity where everyone participates. The crazier the idea, the better, because you never know what little kernel of an idea is within that entire conversation. Somebody may say something that sparks something completely different, and somehow it comes around and we use both of these ideas. So it's an extremely powerful technique. and it's a great one. So, give them an information. This is how we do it. There are rules. No one's going to be, everybody has a right to speak. No one's going to be tormented for throwing out a bad idea. Sometimes they even just come up with a ton of really terrible ideas, just like as an icebreaker. So that is a great thing when you're looking to create ideas or create this team. And another one would be, just checking on my time. Another one would be a requirements workshop or a JAD session. They call them JAD sessions, joint application development. We like to call them joint application design when we're with users from a BA perspective. And they're sort of more structured. They're collaborative. They're led by a facilitator, usually the business analyst, right? And you're going to have a select bunch of people, and you're going to discover, discuss, define, or refine meetings requirements. And sorry, folks, phone call coming through. And you're going to have one or more of these type of meetings, and you get together, and they're usually with a cross section of different types of roles, right? We know this. So it's going to be stakeholders, subject matter experts, users, it could be web designers, developers, etc., DBAs, database folks. And we're doing that in order to, and again, this is how you want to preface this. We want to facilitate this understanding and agreement across a wider sector and between all parties. A lot of times, different departments will look at even a term. Years ago, we had, it was in case management, and what was considered an open case, a case to be opened. And 3 different departments had 3 different answers to that. So when you get them all in a room together, then we can all say, okay, this is really what we mean by this particular key term. So it does a lot of that. It gets agreement across all the individuals. It identifies people or subgroups to work on things. So, you sort of have like, homework or whatever. But again, it's team building, right? And most importantly, there's the emphasis that collectively this group is responsible for this deliverable. So these are all techniques. It's sort of a go team type of technique. We're going to throw it all out there, right? We're going to, I think it's one of the most effective BA techniques to get everyone in that room. And things will come up, conflicts will come up, but that's good. Bring them to a head and make sure we get rid of them or we address them right away. So again, we're trying to get buy-in. We're trying to get commitment from an entire group of people. And when you can get that buy-in and you can get everyone moving towards a common goal, there's no stopping that train, sister or brother. It's just pulling on right through. So, and if you want to jump on our train, see, I like to segue these little things, right? I know it's sad. I'm working on it. But just to let you know, you can sign up for the BA Zone's mailing list. And if you do that, you'll be alerted before everyone else, classes that we're going to have or upcoming shows that we're going to do. So, head on out to the BA Zone and you can do that and join our mailing list. And right now we have 2 classes that are out there and available on the website. And one of those is getting experience before you have experience. And the other class is the BA job search hints and tips for success. So this is geared towards, getting the job, whether you have experience or not, or, just how to be successful in actually job search and nailing that particular job. So Kathleen, I don't see, have we got anything going on here? Nope, no comments, but feel free. I know if you have comments, definitely you can drop, go over to the BA Zone. We always are there to answer any type of questions you might have. I mean, we do this for you. We're out there. If you have any ideas for any upcoming shows, things you'd like to learn about, or things you'd like a little more information on, drop us a line. A lot of our shows come from you, the viewers, and we really, really do appreciate you guys coming by. I know everybody, time is short, and we're all struggling with trying to get everything in every single day. So please, please feel free to drop us a line at thebazone.com, and we will answer you. Okay, so I think that's about it. So this train is about pulling into the station. So I want to thank you all again for joining tonight's show. I hope this information helps you in some small way. And I hope it helps you to help the customer understand what we do as business analysts, and helps put them at ease and trust in you to lead their team. So now it's time to ease into my PJs, and you have a terrific night. And thanks again for coming by, and we hope to see you next week. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.